And now we are on to Dark. You have one of the series that was popping
Uh,
off a little bit here and there on social media as well, I think.
yeah, I have a series for sure. Um,
A series that exists.
yeah, all right.
uh,
I've got Roshidere, or it's was this Tokidoki, Bosotto Roshiago de Dereru Tonari no Alya-san. Is Alya sometimes hides her feelings in Russian.
yeah.
And I guess for this, I'll just read the mall description really quick, which is Seirei Academy is a prestigious school attended by the very best students in Japan. Alisa Mikhailnova, or Alia, the half Russian, half Japanese treasurer of the school student council, is known for her intelligence, stunning looks, and rigid personality. Contrasting her near flawless persona is Alia's unmotivated classmate, Masachika Kuze. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Great. Classic mall description notice. Anyway, all
Now
right.
you
I'll
know
just
my
go from here.
frustration.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is not English, guys. Anyway,
Yeah.
so Kuze is our main male protagonist. He is a slacker. He is the typical rom-com harem male protagonist. In that regards, where he is the slacker who gets things done. For some
Mhm.
reason, this series is not listed as a harem. I guess it's like technically in the most like I don't
It's the
know.
similar
It's not
stuff that
as
we always
straight up
just
as a
talk about.
harem.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
it's more
Yeah.
than that though too, which is I'll get into. But either way, yeah. So the basic premise of this show is Alya has a crush on him, and winds up showing that by speaking in Russian. And she'll say very
Mhm.
endearing things in Russian. She'll call him cute. She'll say what she really means, etc., etc. Um, and the basic gimmick is that Kuze actually knows spoken Russian. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and so like, but he doesn't tell her that.
Ha
She
ha
doesn't
ha
know that, and he
hashi.
doesn't. Yeah, and she doesn't tell him that, or rather, he doesn't tell her that. Essentially, because he kind of waited too long, and now he's like, well, this will like kill her if she knows
Yeah, it'll be very
that I
awkward.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that she knows that I know
Yeah.
everything she said.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it kind of just goes from there. The first episode, my major disappointment, I will say, spoiler alert, I was pretty disappointed with this series so far. I will likely watch more, but the first episode opens very, very, very strong, I think. Because it sets it up as a pretty typical rom-com with the supporting characters kind of pushing these two characters forward and whatnot, or like
Yes.
getting into hijinks with them, or like pressing their buttons. Um, but then after that, I really feel like the episodes kind of like trail off into these like episodic. We're gonna focus on like every single different character for each episode up and through what I watched,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
episode
yeah, yeah,
5.
yeah, yeah.
And I was
We're
like,
gonna develop the supporting cast.
yeah, like, listen, man, I really didn't give a shit about the sister. Because there's like a gimmick where it's like the sister is like a freak. She's like an otaku. She acts like an ojo-sama type in school, and no one, for some reason, I don't really know why. Maybe their like parents are separated. I forget or whatever, but they do not have the same like last name, but it is his sister. And everyone thinks that they're just like childhood friends. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, so then it gets into that, and she's a degenerate freak, who's into reading like incest novels and shit.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
and they ham it up like way too much. But regardless, then another episode, it gets into Alia's sister meeting up with the male protag. But I'm confused, right? Because even in like I guess just to get to my main point of contention is like in the second or third episode when it's focusing on the sister, or rather, the sister plays a much more heavy role. The basic
Mhm,
gimmick that comes up is they, you know, Alia doesn't know it's his sister, and for some reason they're not letting her know that. I guess maybe because of the act that his sister's putting on at school.
mhm.
But they kind of like his sister basically lets it slip that like they were in the same house and overnight, and she's currently like when they meet up, she's currently like wearing one of his t-shirts over like her shirt, or not t-shirt, one of his like dress shirts, you know, in like a tomboyish like with jeans look that she's pulling off,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
etc.,
yeah,
etc.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they drop like these lines where he's like, yeah, you know, she just happened to show up and end up in my bed, etc., etc. And
Uh-huh.
they kind of never diffuse that misunderstanding.
Just move on to another scene?
They kind of just
Like
like continue as if like play it off as if that wasn't like something that would be kind of a record scratch moment for characters. Like they play it off as if
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
just a basic like a harem, like, or not even harem, but like basic you know, rom-com, not antagonist, what would you call it, like rival moment almost, or something like that.
Deuteragonist
um
kind of sense? Yeah.
yeah, and then they go to that episode wraps up with them getting off the train station after meeting Alia, like them all on the train station, and they get off at the same stop. And Alia's like, "Wait a minute, why are they getting off at the same stop?" And then the
Uh-huh.
episode ends. And then the next
Okay.
episode doesn't do anything with that. And it's like,
I wanna kinda see how this is almost written out in the web novel, because I feel like the web novel will probably have the way that this is storyboarded, it almost sounds like the web novel itself has weird cuts in terms of, like, chapter hangers. You
yeah,
know
I
what I
mean, I
mean?
really wouldn't be that
Um,
surprised if it is from the original, because it like and it's like very
yeah, yeah,
odd
yeah,
because it's
yeah.
like, wait, like why do you keep ending, like why are you ending it like that? Like this is something that you kind of like, this is something that feels very much like, you know, important to get through.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. Like I don't really know why they would kind of
I
just like
also,
move on
uh,
from that.
yeah, I also have another issue, and this is probably also a problem with the original story, unless the anime related storyboarding as well. But my prop so whenever I hear the premises for these series, or whenever I have to go through these series, or have to analyze or help, you know, you guys kind of walk through these series and kind of review it, right? Is in my head, there is a giant monkey with a headband, and the headband has a label on it. It's called Occam's razor. And at the end of the day, it is as I'm watching Alia, or I'm hearing about Alia from you, or I'm reading about the description, it is similar to Komi, it is similar to Shikimori-san, it is similar to sort of something like Uzai Senpai, um, Uzai Kohai, right? All of these, Nagatoro-san, of course, and all of these other series. And what really most people want from these sorts of series, other than it magically, obviously, if it magically ended up being a really good dynamic story filled with deep interactions, that'd be one thing. But outside of that sort of miracle happening, what people really want from these series is just them sticking to the shtick properly, and hopefully it's a good shtick, right? Obviously, we had a problem, for instance, during our Pakomi-san review, where we weren't really satisfied with the initial shtick at all, right? But assuming that it's a good shtick, which we might discuss this about Alya-san later, but assuming that it's a good shtick, we need to make sure that the author sticks to doing that shtick, slapping that button properly, so people are like, "Yeah, do it again," and then the series does it again, and then around that, you kind of weave in the small sort of development structure of the main characters, the core characters that are needed to progress the story, properly progressing and eventually doing stuff. And from what you're describing to me, it just doesn't seem like any of that generally is happening, right? Is
Yeah, because
the button
it
slapping is, like,
keeps.
happening at times, but then there are, like, side characters, and it's like, "What the fuck is going on?" And the development of the core characters is also kinda messed up, and it's just
Yeah,
weird.
it's like realistically, like, why am I learning anything in the episode I was going through? It's like, why am I learning
Yeah.
anything about the student council president? Like, why?
Just
Who's a
slap the button,
guy?
bro. Just talk
Like,
in
no,
Russian
it's a
right now.
guy.
Just
Like,
yeah.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
just do the Russian thing. Do
Yeah,
that.
just do the
Have
Usagi Russian
Useko
thing, bro.
Shimori, like do that. Have the misunderstanding happen again, and then we move on. And then we
Yeah,
have another one
exactly.
later. Like that's
Yeah,
fine. There was really nothing wrong with doing that.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, and that's why I thought like it's in like a really weird spot for me because it's like I really liked episode 1, right? You know, it has like
Uh-huh,
it
uh-huh.
also has like these etchy scenes that are very well done, very well animated. Or
Yeah,
not
yeah.
even etchy, just like the lewd. Oh yeah, I guess it
It
is
is
like kind of
Dogokoma. Yeah, d I
etchy
think Dogokoma
and like
managed to
Lucky
put a more
Skebe like
subtle
type.
tint on it, yeah.
Yeah, like type
Yeah, yeah.
stuff. That is very nice. It's very fun.
Yeah.
There's like slapstick. The interactions between Kuze and Alya is very cute. Very nice.
Mhm.
But Darth,
Um,
why do they look so similar? Why does his sister and Alia look so similar with just changed hairstyles? They look different in the manga.
I don't know
Yeah,
actually. Is that like a
it's
thing that
weird.
you're about to enlighten me on? Like
Oh,
I
it's just
actually
weird.
have no clue. Yeah,
Might
I don't
just be
know.
it might just be the anime designer
Yeah,
just doing that, but a little bit, yeah.
lazy.
Sometimes that happens.
I
But
mean, I will
I
say in the show they do wind up looking like way different in certain scenes just because like their hairstyles like get
yeah,
changed
yeah, yeah.
based on like, you know, when they're in school, when they're out of school, depending on
Mhm.
the situation they're in. So they do wind up that winds up not being much of a thing, especially with their eyes and their eye color and how that's all rendered in the show. I will say this is a very pretty show, by the way. I will say that.
Yes.
Going along
Again,
with the etchy
Dogokoma just
scenes
bringing
that
out pretty good.
yeah, this
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
very high tier, even for Dogakobo. I feel like this is kind of like a cut
Yeah, yeah,
above
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
they normally do, which is
Absolutely.
also kind of nice. Um, but yeah, so like that did leave it in a little bit of a weird spot for me, where I'm like, you know, I like a lot of these gimmicks. I loved this first episode because I didn't have time yet to kind
Yeah.
of like don't like linger on these characters, but now that that
You
is
want to
starting
like
to
the
happen
series. You want to
more,
like the series.
yeah, I
Yeah.
really do. And like, but like now that it's starting to dwindle on like more and more characters, I'm kind of like, I don't really care about them though.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
like I kind of just want to see more Alia. Don't really care about her sister. Don't care to see her sister interact with the MC. And that's why I feel like there are aspects of this that feel way more like a harem than it does like just the rom com that it seemingly sets out to be of more of a much more standard rom com. From like
No,
everything I've
yeah,
seen about
I
it,
know what
all
you're
the
talking about.
promo
Again.
about it,
Yeah.
it seems more so like. I mean, obviously, it's like these girls don't really have like, or shouldn't really have much of a chance. But as far as the pacing goes, it's like okay, but
Mhm.
then why am I seeing so much of them? Right?
Yeah,
Like I don't
it goes
fucking
from
care
something
about
like
them.
a Shikimori-san or a Nagatoro-san where obviously there's sometimes other girls or some slight couple of like a mini arc or whatever that has the other girls trying to maybe mac on the main character, but for the most part, you thought it would be a one-to-one kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I thought
But
it was gonna
then
be a lot
it's
more, a lot
yeah, but
less
then
of
it
these
ended
other
up becoming
girls.
something like a Data Live or like an Infinite Stratos where there is this, or even Kotoban, right? Where there's one main girl for sure, but it's also a bunch of the other girls, right? Like, and that makes it a lot more harem, like in structure.
Yeah, and especially with their interactions with the MC, like
Yeah.
they're
Yep. Yep.
like with that, it's like you know, like I said, even the moments when Elia is like interacting with them, I'm like, okay, like that's fine, I guess. Um, but the problem is like, yeah, Elia be interacting with them, but the but then the episode will just be like, okay, but like, what if Elia wasn't here for a little bit? And it's like, okay, but why? Like, okay, but she should be here. like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like she should be
exactly.
here because that's kind of like why I'm watching this show. Um,
Yeah, yeah. It's in the title. Hey, look at the title.
Yeah, it's like I'm here to watch her sometimes hide her feelings in Russian. Go figure.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it just becomes like pretty awkward with that, and it's
Mhm.
pretty deeply unfortunate. I feel.
Yeah.
It's I wish that it wasn't the case. I hope that perhaps at some point they like kind of get back to it with the focus being more on Alia like in later episodes. Um because I will definitely keep up with this just because of that. Just because of how much like I want to enjoy this. Like I want to see these parts that I think have like really big promise to them.
Mhm.
And I really hope that that is something that winds up kind of shining through as we get further and further. And yeah, I think like it's split too much, right? Because then there is also the sort
Mhm.
of going into the MC's backstory, going into why he even knows Russian, and that kind of being a
Yeah.
little bit of a red
And
flag
then,
with me
like, the
because it's about
election arc
another
and stuff like
girl.
that. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, and then
the
now
weird
he's in,
stuff,
and
yeah.
now he was always like, I'm not going to be in the student council. And then it seemed like his backstory, from what I can understand, was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, his backstory was like kind of good. Like, I'm not going to spoil that. I think the way they introduce why
Yeah,
he
yeah,
does
yeah.
not want to run for student council, why he like
Mhm.
feels not so much that like he's lesser, he doesn't want to put himself in that position for a very specific reason. Um, it's a very minor reason. I don't really know if it's that much of a typical reason, but I think it's like not the most it's not like the deepest reason, it's not the craziest reason, but I thought the way it was presented was really cute and I thought that it was a really like sort of like human way to have him do that because it's not like, it's not like I don't want to be part of the student council because when I was going to be part of the student council and someone like fucking died, right? Like that is, spoiler
Mhm.
alert. It's nothing like that.
Yeah,
It is a
yeah.
very minor like um thing in the grand scheme of things. But it's something that would impact someone, especially like a kid. I think to an extent that you would think that this is pretty believable. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, so like that's fine. But then the problem is like, like I said, you're juggling all these characters. Now you're being like, okay, but he is in the student council now with Alya and all of them. So
Right,
what's going to
right.
happen now? So I'm hoping now that kind of like pushes him a little bit more to just interact with her more often than not, and for the other girls to just take a backseat now and just be like, you are just now the true supports. You are just the supporting cast. You are not
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
fucking here. We're not going to introduce more girls. We're not going to introduce more other characters that we need all these backstories for. We're just going to introduce like student council happenings that essentially force him into situations with Alia. So I'm hoping that is what happens. But yeah, I don't know. I want to like this series a lot more than I currently am
Mhm.
for a lot of reasons. I mean, even to get
Yeah.
into the basics of, like I said, like Usaka Sumire speaking in like this, the cute Russian tone is always fun, always nice.
Mhm.
Um,
It was kinda interesting the way that she did this because I honestly thought I haven't read the web novel or the light novel, so, again, I might be completely misled, but from the initial premise, what I thought it would be like would be that the girl's accent would be completely similar to Idolmaster's Anastasia. So she would be full on Wahoo Mario, racist or like almost yeah, ethnic discriminatory or stereotype, right? It's like
yeah, like
like like
yeah,
that.
or
I thought
like
she would do
Das
that,
Vidania.
but yeah, exactly. But she speaks completely normal except for when she tries to speak the Russian, and then she turns on becomes like very cutesy just when
Yeah,
she's
it's a
speaking
very
Russian,
cutesy
and that
Russian.
was
Yeah,
very yeah, 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 and that was, it wasn't off-putting, but it was initially a little bit jarring.
yeah,
I
I
was
thought
like,
it
"Oh,
was.
I didn't
Yeah,
expect that
I thought it was
that
gonna be a
that too."
lot more like even when she was doing her normal voice.
Yeah. That'd
I
be
thought the
cool,
Russian was
honestly, in
gonna
my
be
opinion.
like
Yeah.
swapped like right to like
Yeah.
the corniest
Like Red
Russian
Alert.
accent you've
Yeah,
ever
Red
heard.
Alert
Yeah.
3. Yeah, exactly.
What's
Oh my
the
god.
what's the term for that? Uh,
Or
is that
like
the the climax, the crescendo of every episode though? Just
no,
she
not even
speaks
remotely close.
German, not German, Russian, and that's in
It's
that's
kind of like
crazy.
throughout the episode, pretty sprinkled. They kind of like
Yeah.
they
It's
kind of
just like the
do pace
slap a
it
punch stick.
outward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll lead to like slapstick stuff. It'll lead to, the
Yeah.
usual of the MC being like, fuck, how am I gonna like mask the fact that I know what she's saying, but I have to play dumb?
Hmm.
And there's some of him having close calls with like responding to her naturally when he should not be, and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the dynamic between them is really good.
Have they not got the memo? Russia bad. Hello.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
That's
When was
why
this made?
she's that's why she's in Japan. Okay.
When was this made? What year?
Oh, that's a good
What year
question,
was the
actually.
original?
Roshidere? It was probably only a few years ago, in my opinion,
Fuck,
right?
why does clicking source on
It's
Dragon Ball
2020.
so bad?
2020, yeah.
Okay,
So it was like COVID kind
when
of
did
year.
Russia invade?
Well, actually, I
Russia
think like a year
invaded
later, right?
way after the. Yeah. Oh, really?
Okay, so
Yeah.
2022. Okay, they get a pass.
Yeah, it's
They
2020.
predicted the future, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they also didn't know better.
Russia's invading Japan in this.
Japan loves Russia, by
Uh-huh.
the way. So
Oh yeah,
to be
they
fair,
do have a little bit of a Russian-German kind
do
of
the
thing.
Rush, but
Yeah,
do the
what is it?
Russians love the
What
Japanese?
is it?
You gotta
I don't
look
know.
What
into
is
that.
it? What is
Somebody
that
looked
shit
into that?
called? What is that shit called? The people who are like rioting like that as if like like Russia, India, China, and fucking whatever wherever else is like the new
Oh,
world
new like
Well,
order.
block. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
what
wasn't
is
it?
that? What is
Isn't
that? The abbreviation? I forget. There's some
I
fucking
forget.
abbreviation. That
Yeah,
it's
I
called.
know what you're
or
talking
Because
about.
it
the
is like the R.
cornerstone
Is
of
it
the
RIGC?
Putin-Abe relationship?
Is it just straight up
Was it?
RIGC that people say? I don't know what the G is though.
I
So
forget. Yeah.
My AI overview is saying that Japan and Russia, that Shinzo Abe and Putin love each other. So, okay.
Well, not anymore.
Generative AI is experimental.
Oh no, that's what it
Okay.
is. My bad. It's BRICS. It's BRICS. That's what I'm thinking. It's
BRICS.
fucking
Okay.
Yeah,
BRICS.
I
Yeah,
know what you're
Brazil,
talking about now. Yeah,
Russia, China,
BRICS is like completely like that sort
India,
of
and South
quote
Africa. It's
unquote
like
quote
no.
unquote block to face the US, which is not
Yeah.
really
All
a
right.
thing.
Good
But
luck.
Uh,
yeah.
Wiki's
Anyways,
telling me something
can
else. What is this?
But
can
yeah.
I
So
talk? All right, I want to can you talk a little bit about the OPED? And I know you already went over the visuals,
so the
but can you talk a little bit about, I guess, BGM kind of stuff?
yeah, I'll
Anything?
get the EG. I'll get the ED out of the way. The ED is pretty
Mhm.
standard. It's a just like a kind of a. There are a series of EDs. I should say that each episode has its own. But
Yes. We actually need to talk
which
about
is
this.
cool.
Yeah,
Which is
the ED stuff.
cool.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
songs are nice.
yeah,
However, I wish, at least as far as the ones that I've seen, they did more with the visuals. I feel like the visuals haven't really been the standout part of it.
I think they blew all their money on trying to license out all those songs because they're not small songs. They're literally songs like Hare Yukai, like the it's like the Haru Suzumiya, like ED ending. The
Yeah, these are
Kalik
all
Tegumen.
these are
Yeah.
all Usaka Sumire
Like
songs, like full
no, well,
performance.
they're not Usaka Sumire song. Well, the cover by Usaka Sumire in
Yeah,
Roshidere, but the original songs are all very famous, essentially.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like you're, I guess, can't ask for everything. I
there's a
will
lot
say
of
the
licensing going
flip
on. Yeah.
side, like, and while that is cool, the flip side of that too is it's like, I guess you can't ask for everything because I would say I think the OP is really good. I think the OP has some really
Hmm.
cool stuff in it. I think it has some really cool cuts, and some style shifts and stuff like that, in the OP. So I think that that's really fun and kind of makes up
Hmm.
for the EDs like visually not being the most striking things ever.
Hmm.
Maybe some of the later ones
Yeah.
are. I don't really know personally because, like I said, I've only seen 5 so far, and they've all been like kind of standard, just kind of like juggling different characters. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah, and then as far as the general music goes, I think they do a pretty good job. I think this is kind of like a lot of the music for me, like it's not the most like I can't it's not the most memorable, if that makes sense, but it is a very good scene setter. It is a very good scene complementer.
Mhm.
With what happens, especially when it starts getting into slapstick, when it starts getting into more extremely comedic moments, whimsical stuff like that. I think the music cut-ins that they use for that have been quite nice. And like I said, visually, this show is, uh, a cut above what
Above
Doga Kobo
average
even
for Tokobo
usually puts out.
standards. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is good because I think Doga
yeah.
Kobo normally Doga Kobo standard is very good.
Yeah,
And this being a cut
consistently
above it
very
is
good, yes.
really, really, really nice. They have,
Mhm.
and like I said, especially with the fan servicey slash etchy scenes, they kind of go pretty all out with Alya and the MC. So
Mhm.
that's been pretty good. Also the MC being voiced by Kohei Amasaki is pretty nice. He doesn't have like a ton of main roles under his belt. Obviously, he has a lot of roles.
Yeah.
And he has like
It's kind of
a
how
lot
these
of.
kind of ends up.
I was just gonna say
Yeah,
the main roles
it
that he has are popular enough, especially for like the sort of what would you call like Fujoy things that he's a part of
yeah,
for the most
that's
part.
the usual pipeline most male voice actors take. So
Yeah. But he does very good, and I like to hear him in main roles because he doesn't get a super whole lot of them. But I think he does have a pretty distinct voice slash delivery in a lot of ways. While not being like too far out there. So kind of nice to hear him and not someone we're more used to hearing, I guess.
right. Okay. I guess any last words then, and what would you rate the series?
Um, I guess I would say like so just for me personally too. I am a big hater of rom-com harems to begin with.
Hmm. Hmm.
Especially like pure rom-com harems where it's literally like school life shit, and then they're like, "Hey, here's a
Yeah.
harem." Like, yeah, I don't really care.
Right.
You kind of got to put it in like something like Index or something
Yeah.
like something bigger than just
If it's
that.
just like a very standard, like, oh, freaking harem, you're just like, send it to the
Yeah,
glue
here's a
factory right
harem.
now.
Here's a harem, and it's school life. Like for me
Yeah.
personally, I'm always like, nope, don't give a shit.
Put it down.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
need something more. I need like it's a fucking harem, but they're vampires, or it's a harem, but they're
Yeah.
like just anything else. Like I need something,
Monster
some
Girls or
other kind
something.
of
Yeah,
treat.
exactly.
Yeah, like I need a little bit more than that. So for me, like that's what's kind of like bouncing me off of a lot of this, right? So
Hmm.
if you're someone who likes that, if you're someone who likes series like that, I mean, I think you'll fucking love this because I think this does
Yeah.
that fine. And I think it does what it's doing with the two mains also very well. So,
Hmm.
if like those episodes where it's focusing on the other girls a little bit more, or the other characters a little bit more, if that isn't like kind of abrasive to you, you're really gonna like this.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I just wanted to say, like, for me personally, that is like the sort of inherent bias I have coming into something like this to begin with.
Right. Okay. What's the rating here? What's the Mal rating? Got to
I
give us
think
a
like
number for that
for
dopamine.
me, okay, so I think the mall rating, and like I said, like without taking into account what I just said, I think the rating that mall currently has at a 7.95 is pretty warranted and like
Okay.
pretty fair. Like a 7, like a strong 8 for people who like really dig that. If not like maybe
Hmm.
a 9. For me, however, my personal feeling on this is like a strong 6 right now. Yeah, like a strong 6. Because like I said,
Mhm.
audiovisual is really really good. A lot of what's there is good and has a lot of potential, but I really
Mhm.
want to see I really want to see, like, like how Maul says, lists Alya and Kuze as the mains. I want to see that, right? Like,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
obviously,
You
like
want the spotlight to
obviously
be
they
a little
are
bit better, yeah.
mains, but
Mhm.
you need to show me a little bit more, you know? I'm feeling
Yeah, the
like they're
spotlight needs to
not
be
really
focused
mains.
properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
I want to see more of essentially more of what I came for before
Mhm.
before I really lock in on that.
Mhm.
So hopefully I do as things progress. This is definitely something I'm going to keep up with just because of that, and just because of that promise.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, thank you very much, Dark, for helping to cover this series. Again, this was one of our series on the hit list. We really did want to cover this, so I'm glad you helped us go through this. It is the Dogakobo series of the season. It is Roshidere, which is the short abbreviation for Aya sometimes hides her feelings in Russian, also known as Tokidoki Bosotto Roshiago de Dereru Tonari no Alya-san. So
So wait,
it's a
the
rom
Roshi
com.
stands for Russian?
Yes, Roshiago.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is originally a Naro web novel written by San and illustrated later on, like novel by Momoko. Got a manga, now it got an anime adaptation. So if you do like this sorts of kind of, I guess, romp, please do check this out.